Hi, and welcome to Mind Mapping for Efficient Project Management. My name is Andy Makar, and I'll be your host throughout the session today. I want to go over the goal of the presentation is to introduce you to some mind mapping techniques and effective tools on how you can help improve some of your project management efficiency. A little bit about my background. I'm actually a IT program manager in the real world. My day job is to implement large-scale programs, and I use that using mind mapping tools as well as one of the tools in the toolkit. So I'm a mind mapping enthusiast. I'm also a frequent contributor to Ganthead.com, and I'm always looking for taking the project management theory and how do you actually translate that into actual practice. But getting into the content of the presentation, one of the problems that project managers continue to face is their ability to juggle project management efficiency with project management administration. One example of that is meeting minutes. Now, we all know meeting minutes are a good thing to do, but do we always really fill them out? Do we always distribute them on time? Does anybody really like all that administrative documentation? And you as the reader, do you actually read the meeting minutes that you receive for all the meetings that you go to? I mean, you want to see an example of this, just go to your next team meeting and see who jumps at the opportunity to take meeting minutes. I think you'll see all the hands will remain folded. And with some of these project management processes, they are highly administrative. Now, these processes are value-add, but there are some of the administrative requirements that do come into play. And that's where an example of meeting minutes is you have to take your notes and you transcribe them from your handwritten notes or what you've typed onto a Word document, and you actually put that into a formal meeting minutes template. Depending on your level of project management maturity, your PMO may even provide you with a meeting minutes template and require you to document meeting minutes in that format. Some of the challenges that you still see is you have missing comments, poor interpretation of what the notes were. So as you're going through the meeting, you're trying to take notes and you're trying to facilitate the meeting at the same time, you can miss some of the comments that are given throughout the discussion. Now, you can have an assistant be there to help record those meeting minutes, but even then, the person may be recording one former thought as the topic of the discussion has continued and moved forward. But what ends up happening is the project manager ends up wasting really a lot of time with low-level administrative tasks when really they should be bringing the leadership and the thought leadership around the project management and helping you deliver that project. Another challenge I see is you run into low participant engagement. Now, I'm sure we've all been in meetings where the conversation goes off topic, goes into different tangents, and all of a sudden you see folks start to disengage and they start to look at their BlackBerries, start looking at their laptops. It often can be difficult to help refocus the team on a particular topic. So really there has to be a better way to approach this. And one possible solution is to look at mind maps. Now, if you're not familiar with mind mapping, mind maps are a graphical network diagram. They have nodes, branches, colors, icons. It's a pictorial view of the idea or the thought or the concept. And you think back to how we actually think. When we hear words, we tend to translate those words into a picture in our mind. And this is also why we tend to draw a lot of pictures to convey what our idea is or what our approach is in a much more simpler term. If you think back to your Gantt charts and any of the executive presentations that you do, very often you don't take the Gantt chart that comes out of a Microsoft project, but you're building something in PowerPoint or another format to create that drawing in a very simple solution. So when you think about that, why not use those concepts on your day-to-day work into how you can better effectively communicate? So the next slide is just one quick example of how you can build a mind map, and this is the mind map that I use for the presentation. Focusing on concepts of the presenter as well as what the problems were, what are the source of the possible solutions. And we'll cover some of the approaches and applications of mind mapping to project management. And at the end of the presentation, I'll give you an example of some different resources that are available. But here it's a very effective way to very quickly categorize your thoughts and ideas. And in many cases, I'll produce a mind map and use the mind map as the tool to facilitate the discussion or the presentation rather than PowerPoint. So when you think of some of the benefits that are associated with mind mapping, it's efficient, it's effective, it actually allows you to help facilitate the meeting and capture your notes live. So it also helps support nonlinear discussions. So this gets back to the tangents that you run into, where you start going off topic and all of a sudden there's a good discussion that goes, but it's not really related to that agenda item or that agenda topic. Mind mapping allows you to capture those ideas and still pull that into a common format that people can reference later on. And if you're doing this in a conference room, all you really need is a laptop, a projector, or if you're doing this with distributed teams, you can use a WebEx or any type of web presentation software to display what's on your computer as you try to use the mind map to capture the meeting minutes and the notes. And the nice thing is you're one PDF away from distributing the mind map. A number of software packages are available that support mind maps, and they support either PDF or a JPEG image or some type of native readable format that other people can disseminate and read. And what I've also found is it helps enable better communication. People like to translate words, and they think of these words into pictures. And it's almost easier to understand and prioritize and focus your thoughts when you're looking at a drawing that has notes associated with it. It allows you, instead of having to sift through long paragraphs of text, you're able to very quickly zero in on a topic because we tend to think in pictures. And one of the other side effects that I've seen is better engagement at different meetings. When you're using some of these software tools, the participants, they're actually intrigued by the visual technique of how you're describing a particular process or you're describing a topic, and you start taking notes against the topic, and immediately you can get feedback because people are seeing you type either the wrong word or the wrong comment, or they want to clarify a comment based on what you're typing. So it's nice to see that the comments on those notes are available as they're being typed, rather than as a side effect or having to send it out to the team for review and then get feedback. So it's a much more better way to collaborate around a meeting. And then there's a couple other applications that we'll show you of how you can apply this in other project management areas. But I've also seen, just informally, that less BlackBerry email checking and laptop surfing, as folks are a little more engaged because now you're facilitating the discussion using a particular tool. So one example of mind mapping can be applied to your meeting minutes. And in this case, the agenda is actually the mind map. So I don't walk in with a Word document any longer or a PowerPoint presentation. I'll come in with a mind map, and I'll facilitate the meeting using the mind map and capturing the notes against the different nodes in the mind map itself. And another nice thing is you're able to quickly document action items, and you can assign the tasks and resources to the particular action item. And you're able to help distribute this mind map in a PDF or export it into a text document such as Microsoft Word. Actually, some packages actually allow you to take action items, assign dates to them, and you can actually export that out to a Microsoft project schedule. But here's just one example of how that mind mapping template can be created and used. Here with this template, you see in the center is the core meeting name of the meeting. You have a quick overview where it covers common administrative information about the meeting, location, time, purpose, participants. And then you get into the actual agenda of the meeting where you review the key objectives, performance against those objectives, what's the organizational overview, any top issues, you want to review any of the previous goals. Really, you're building out the agenda topics that you want to cover within your given meeting. And here you're able to use a variety of different icons to highlight the importance or the value. So in this example, this meeting was talking about the financial results of some of our progress that we've made against our goals. So there you have a little dollar icon that's available to you. There's also a section for action items. So in this slide, you see where you're able to document the notes, and you're actually able to assign action items to resources. And in this section on the right, you see there's a little task pane that pops up and allows you to pick a resource, assign a date and time. Now, this particular mind map was done using a product called from MindJet. It's MindJet's Mind Manager. And this is just one software package that you can use to develop these mind maps.